Hi, everyone. Watching left-leaning cable news channels or reading much of the mainstream media coverage these days, you might think that law enforcement is one of the more reviled professions in America. Instead of portraying the vast majority of cops as the heroes who protect and serve communities, many in the media seem to work overtime painting cops as a whole as racist, authoritarian thugs who break the law instead of enforce it. But thankfully, it is also painfully out of touch with how the American public actually feels. Americans have seen right through it. Tonight, the hour on the war on police. We'll talk about what's behind this incredible disconnect from the media, about how media perception helped fuel drastic ideas like defund the police, which many major cities are finally recognizing was a disastrous idea and are now reversing course. And we'll bring you the stories that the media should be showing more of. Men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line to save others. That is certainly not the portrayal you will see from many MSNBC hosts. This is MSNBC's Joy Reid last year.
Why would you defund your mayor and fund the police? Think about it. If what the police are doing with the funding that you're giving them is they're killing your kids, if let's say, instead of a police, let's say a nanny service, there's a nanny service that exists somewhere. And this nanny service was killing 5% of the children that they were taking care of. And they would decide when those children died whether or not that death was legitimate or not. And they got to decide that, and you couldn't. And they had all the right in the world to have any child in their care die, and there's nothing you could do about it. Would you keep hiring that nanny service, or would you say, you can't have my money?
Wait, what? You mean if these kids the nanny was caring for were packing heat, some of them pointing the weapons at the nannies and are running away from them and then fighting the nannies? Look, police officers have to run two dangerous situations that others have called in. They don't pick and choose the 911 calls. And as I've said many times, there are bad cops who need to be held accountable. But this is just noxious nonsense. And that MSNBC host is far from the only one.
Police deserve unions, but not to protect them when they fail in their mission. We should not be pouring millions of taxpayer dollars into policing systems that are discriminatory to large portions of our population.
I am an American. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to be yes-sirring anybody, right? I'm a grown, you-know-what man.
You don't have to say sir, but if he's giving you the law, yeah.
But I do it because I want to stay alive. That's why I do it. I shouldn't have to. Now, my friends, my white counterparts, don't do that. They speak to police officers in a way that I would never
I speak to them just like you do.
Years do. And that is the reality of it. I have to do that because I want to stay alive. I have to do that because I don't want to be shot and I don't want to be killed.
We had a chant in Ferguson. We said, who do you protect? Who do you serve? And the truth is nobody, especially not us. And this is a point I think people don't get. The police officers, police unions for a long time have been litigating a simple fact, the point that they actually don't have to jump in harm's way to protect the citizenry. That's actually not their responsibility. So this idea of serve and protect is a myth.
Right. Serve and protect is a myth. Tell that to the families of the 36 officers across the country killed this year in the line of duty, 73 killed last year. Tell them that their loved ones didn't have to jump in harm's way. Tell them they weren't protecting anybody. They weren't serving. But here's the good news. The American public isn't buying it. Take a look at this. Brand new Harris poll out this week. 67% of Americans have a favorable opinion of police. Only 24% have an unfavorable opinion, and these days, Americans hate everything. Among the 14 major institutions Harris asked respondents about, the police are the third most popular. The military was number one. So what's behind this disconnect? Why are police so reviled in the media despite being so revered by the public? Joining us now is veteran journalist Bernard Goldberg. You can check out his work at bernardgoldberg.com. And also Kristen Zeman. She's the former chief of the Aurora, Illinois Police Department, now an author and consultant. Thank you both for coming on the program. Appreciate it. Bernie, good to have you on the program. Well, look, you've studied media for a long time. You've been studying this issue for a long time. Why the disconnect?
Well, liberal and progressive journalists disconnect with the American people on all sorts of issues. They're not in sync with them on abortion. They're far more favorable to pro-choice issues. They're not in sync on gender. They're not in sync on a whole bunch of issues, and crime is just one of them. If you watch, and by the way, that montage you played of MSNBC, what makes that especially despicable is that they did that for money. Let's be very clear about that. They're pandering to an audience that wants to hear that kind of stuff. That bothers me more than actually what Joy Reid and the other idiots were actually saying, that the management does it for money. Now, by and large, if you watch news on television, just about the only time they're interested in stories that involve police is when there's a white cop and a black person who's been hurt by the white cop. Yep. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. I know that's a generalization, Dan, but generally speaking, if you watch TV, think about it.
Yep. Well,
it's about the only time you're going to get news from mainstream liberal and especially progressive journalists about the police, when there's a white cop and a black victim.
And I think, and I've said this before, because you can actually figure it out by looking at unarmed white victims involving police, and there's almost no coverage of it, right? I mean, there have been a number of cases of police officers shooting an unarmed white person, sometimes wrongly, sometimes rightly, but the media doesn't focus on it.
No, that doesn't fit the storyline. Who cares about that if you're a liberal or a progressive journalist? You don't care about a white person being shot. You care about a black person being shot, no matter what the circumstances of that shooting, if it's a white cop who was involved in it.
Kristen, what does it do to police morale for this to be happening all the time?
Well, first of all, that montage was extremely hard to watch. And I will say this, I started my career in 1991, and that's when the Rodney King riots rippled across the nation. I ended my career in the George Floyd era when riots rippled across the nation. And if you look at those two snippets, it's like taking a sentence out of a paragraph. It's like, taking a small portion of a larger picture. And I want to underscore here that I have no tolerance, and all of the police officers, excellent police officers, have no tolerance for police misconduct. But what it does, is, first of all, you've seen the mass exodus of police officers because we're all being painted with a broad brush.
We're going to talk about that later in the program as well. But, Bernie, I had a liberal journalist say to me that is sort of attacking me for being too pro-police, et cetera. And he said to me, isn't the job of a journalist supposed to be to speak truth to power? And he said to me, and aren't the police some of the most powerful in our society? I won't tell you what I said. I'll let you answer that one.
What about the truth part of that equation? Yeah, a journalist is supposed to speak truth to power, but he has to speak the truth. And the truth is not the impression that too many journalists give the American people. And that impression is that there are a bunch of rogue white cops running wild, and they have taking target practice at people in minority communities. That is not true. It's factually not true. It's statistically not true. And yet that's the impression they're giving. So if journalists want to speak truth to power, count me in. That's fine with me. But then speak truth to power.
Kristen, the numbers in that poll, I want to focus on sort of some of the good news, right, is that for whatever reason, despite all of this negative media coverage, the public isn't buying it. The overwhelming majority of the public is supportive of police officers. Do you think that police officers are appreciated more day to day by the public? People saying, thank you for what you do, than maybe we see in the media as well?
I do. And in fact, after the murder of George Floyd, you saw it was as if someone flipped a switch in policing, and we became public enemy number one. And calling for defunding the police and abolishing the police, what was very interesting about that is the 911 calls did not stop coming in. So just a piece of irony there. But what ultimately happened was that silent majority who were afraid, and I've heard them say, I'm afraid to say that I support the police. And that pendulum has started to shift, to your point, and that poll coming out, 67%, really does accurately represent those in our communities. There are nearly 800,000 police officers in our nation, and about 61 million residents have had contacts with a police officer. And largely, those outcomes have been positive. But the problem is we don't see that in the headlines.
Hey, look, I don't like seeing the police when I get pulled over for a traffic stop. I'm not happy that I'm getting pulled over, but that doesn't mean that I suddenly hate the cops. I say, I got caught going 14 miles an hour over the speed limit, or whatever it is with my registration, et cetera. Anyway, Kristen Zeman, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Bernie, we're going to check back in with you on another topic in a moment. Coming up, defunding the police. It was a knee-jerk reaction that has now proven detrimental to our communities. Violent crime soaring in many of the places where police budgets were slashed. Now leaders are doing a 180, going from defund to refund, and scrambling to pump much-needed money and resources back into police departments to undo the damage they created. But are they apologizing? That's next. For a while there, it was almost impossible to flip through news channels and not hear about the ridiculous idea of defunding the police. With support and encouragement from many in the left-leaning media, some cities took a silly idea and concept and actually implemented it. That movement turned into a deadly experiment. Certain departments' funding got cut significantly, and lo and behold, a shocking result. Crime then surged. Many citizens from the most liberal corners of the country eventually realized that, yes, they need the police. And now, just 2 years later, leaders quietly giving police back the funds they took away. A prominent example, New York City. Then Mayor Bill de Blasio in the summer of 2020 made national headlines when he promised to strip $1 billion in the city's law enforcement budget. He would eventually go forward with a cut of $400 million, and predictably by March of 2021, violent crime was up, including shootings, which were up by 77%. De Blasio sent $200 million back to the NYPD, including funding to build a new NYPD precinct in Queens, which was cut as part of the initial 2020 cuts. Another example in Portland, Oregon, whose mayor Ted Wheeler in June of 2020 cut $15 million from the city's police department, and crime spiked. In 2021, Portland set a new record for homicides when it recorded 90 homicides amid a surge in gun violence. It shattered the city's previous high of 66, set more than 3 decades ago. That number surpassing more populous cities like San Francisco and Boston, and double that of their northwest neighbor, Seattle. By November 2021, Mayor Wheeler announced a $5 million budget increase for the police department. He explained how things had gotten out of hand.
Many Portlanders no longer feel safe in their city. Business owners have closed up shop for fear of doing business in high-risk areas. Commuters fear for their safety, whether taking public transit or going by foot. Parents are scared to let their children play outside.
Shocking. There's also Austin, Texas. Cut their police budget by a third, reallocating $150 million in 2020. No surprise, Austin had a record number, 89 murders in 2021. Lawmakers there also changed course, giving the police department a record budget of $451.7 million in funding last August. Let's go to San Francisco, where Mayor London Breed slashed $120 million from law enforcement in August of 2020. Crime spiked, including a smash and grab epidemic, and by December of 2021, Mayor Breed declared a state of emergency. She not only granted emergency funding for police at the time, but is now proposing to increase the budget by $50 million. There are many, many more cities that cut funding. Some have returned funds to departments, others have not, and are paying a different price. Look, it is obvious that this so-called experiment to defund the police was a historic failure. And part of the blame lies with the left-leaning media, whose rhetoric in the early summer days of 2020 set the tone.
Feeling safe in our communities does not require a highly combative, aggressive, or militarized police force. Defunding does not mean there will be no police force. It does not mean we abolish the police so that in an emergency we're left with no one to call. It means reallocating funds in order to solve the problems plaguing our policing systems.
We're not spending our resources wisely when we think about Black lives, when we think about Latino lives, when we think about the lives that are disproportionately lost.
When we begin to think of public safety more broadly, we want to reinvest those monies in education, in mental health, right, in social work, in a range of, in housing.
But the narrative has changed. Even those on the left recognizing how dumb this all was, including the president at this year's State of the Union address.
We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them. Fund them.
Now, 2 years ago, when I criticized the defund the police movement, I defended police as a whole, spoke out against removing my live police show from the airwaves. That was somehow viewed as controversial. I was told I was endangering my career by speaking out. Timing wasn't right. Well, I don't have to eat crow because the backtracking says it all. Now, many have come around and realized that they actually need our police, and the answer is more funding and better training, not less. Joining me now, Derek Cohn, Vice President of Policy at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and Timothy Lowry, the mayor and former police chief of Florissant, Missouri, whose city decided to give their police department more funding and has seen crime drop. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. Derek, let me start with you because you study this stuff. How did this go from just being a sort of radical idea into actually being implemented in cities across the country?
Well, Dan, you needn't look further to where this actually took hold. You mentioned Austin, Seattle, New York. These are all places that are fairly affluent and, depending on the area, also could be fairly low crime. And that essentially arises to this sort of activism being a luxury good. You know, communities that are embattled with violent crime are not ones that are crying out for less police. They're the ones that are crying out for more. But what we see in these city councils in these areas are almost entire capture by the activist left. We see folks pushing for reallocating money to things that have nothing to do with public safety. You know, mental health can, but that often is done in a completely separate budget. And so we don't actually see it being deployed in a way that would lead to the public safety that they say they seek.
And Derek, how much of this do you blame on the media coverage? I don't want to overstate it. So give me a straight shot here on how much of this is the media's fault.
I would say that probably a good 60% of it is the media's fault by normalizing this rhetoric, or at least making it seem like it is a common idea that completely stripping funding away from any sort of crime suppression activity is going to lead to less crime, when clearly that's not the case. You know, we saw money from Austin go to things for food access, abortion access, all these things that have nothing to do with crime suppression. And as the personnel dropped and academy classes got canceled, they actually had to pay more and more in overtime just to maintain a bare minimum staffing. And well, once you get back up to full operation status, paying all that overtime will actually cost you more than if you had not cut the budget to begin with.
Mayor Lowry, talk to me about what happened in your city.
So certainly, you know, we continue to increase the police budget. I mean, it's about 30% of our city budget is the police department. Myself, the city council, and certainly our residents believe that this is important. And as a result, we continue to see crime decrease in many areas, such as robberies, assaults, burglaries. I mean, so working with the community and increasing our budget has certainly helped, and giving our police officers the necessary resources to do their job every day, the proper training, and just making sure that our citizens are safe. I mean, it doesn't matter who the person is. If they call 911, they want to see the police department show. They want to see a police officer show up at their door and help them. They want to be able to sleep at night. The way we do that is we provide the funding and the resources to our police department.
So I was going to say, so the radical notion that actually funding police, spending more on policing, you are seeing it lead to a direct result being less crime.
Absolutely. We've seen decreases that we've never seen before in crime. And like I said, it's our community involvement. It's our funding, our making sure that our police department has proper resources, whether or not it's cameras, drones, body cameras, whatever our police department needs to make sure that they can fight crime every day, we're doing it here in the city of Florissant.
Yeah. All right, Mayor Lowry, Derek Cohn, thank you both very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. Welcome back as we continue our special hour of Police Under Fire. You've seen the headlines countless times. Officers involved in X or Y shooting will not be charged. Except very often what that really means is that the officer was doing his or her job valiantly and now has to suffer the psychological implications of having been forced to shoot someone. So rather than appreciating the officer, the implication is that the officer did something wrong but won't be charged. Take this case last July. A McDonald's employee in Maryland called 911 when a drive-through customer refused to pay and wouldn't move his vehicle.
Put your hands up. 4 Robert 32, send him priority. I got a guy, gun on the front seat.
An officer found a handgun in the SUV next to 21-year-old Ryan LaRue. Along with alcohol in the vehicle, more officers responded and tried to de-escalate the situation.
Eagle driver, if you can hear us, put your hands up where we can see them.
Announcements went on for more than 30 minutes until the suspect started moving toward the passenger seat.
He's up. Yeah, he's up. Have him come up Washington Grove from Mid-County Highway.
He's behind the gun.
Just take it straight.
4 officers fired, hitting the suspect, who was pulled from the SUV with the gun in his lap. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. Grand jury determined the officers were justified in using deadly force. Jurors listened to the 911 calls, watched the body cam video, heard testimony from weapons experts. But you wouldn't know that from this headline from, for example, Baltimore station WUSA. Montgomery County officers who killed a 21-year-old man in a McDonald's parking lot won't be charged. There's nothing about the suspect until several paragraphs into the story. A much better headline might be officers' lives put at risk when man who refuses to move car points gun at police. Here's another example from KUSA in Denver. Deputy won't face charges in fatal shooting of domestic violence suspect. Sounds like there's a gray area, but in reality, that suspect kidnapped his ex-girlfriend, held her hostage for 3 days, till she escaped at a gas station. She called 911, saying the suspect was armed, wearing a bulletproof vest, and threatened to, quote, shoot it out with police. Officers followed him to a used car dealership where he ran into a garage, turned toward Deputy Scott Kierstead with a gun in his hand. The deputy fired. The suspect was hit, kept reaching for the gun when the deputy shot him 2 more times, and the suspect died from his injuries. Last week, the DA again cleared the hero officer, writing, "There's no evidence to suggest that an objectively reasonable officer would have acted differently than Deputy Kierstead in this instance. Deputy's life was put at risk multiple times." The Associated Press does this. Police are working a fire evacuation checkpoint in Northern California when a driver who had a warrant for drug and firearm felonies in Colorado refused to stop. He had drugs in his system, more than 100 pounds of marijuana in his truck, when he pointed a handgun with officers who shot him. The driver died of his injuries. The AP headline said, quote, "Officers won't be charged for man's death at fire checkpoint." Nothing about the officers who were already risking their lives when they were targeted by a wanted man on drugs. Joining me again, veteran journalist Bernard Goldberg. All right, Bernie, this one has always irked me, right? These headlines where the summary is, you know, horrible, horrible thing happened, person died, police won't be charged.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's an investigation. They decide not to charge. So the journalist says the person wasn't charged. That's fine only as far as it goes. But Dan, if you're expecting stories about police bravery, if you're expecting stories that put the decision not to charge into some broader context, bring your lunch, Dan. Bring your lunch, because it's going to be a long wait. Because those kinds of stories about police doing something right, police saving lives, they don't engender the same kind of interest that police doing something wrong engender in liberal and progressive journalists.
And the other issue with this kind of stuff is that a DA, as you point out, does an investigation. A DA is not going to say, these hero cops X, Y, and Z. The DA is just going to say, we've evaluated the evidence and there is no grounds to move forward with any charges here. And so the journalists then take that language from the DA, which is highly legalistic, and then put it on the headline. And I think it can lead to a misleading story for the public.
Yeah, they do it not only because it's the legal language of the district attorney, they do it because it's the liberal language of liberal and progressive journalists. That's the more interesting story to them. Well, there was this incident where somebody picked up a gun, aimed it at a cop, wouldn't move for 30 minutes. The cop had to shoot him. It's a terrible tragedy. And the headline is, cop not charged. What the implication is, cop not charged, but maybe he should have been charged.
Right.
That's the implication. I have a solution if you have a minute.
Please. That was my next question.
My solution, and I'm going to immodestly say I deserve a Nobel Prize for this solution, and I should be not talking to you right now, but on my way to Oslo to pick it up. An affirmative action program for the smallest minority in the American newsroom. Affirmative action program for conservative journalists. Hold on. I would tell those conservative journalists, keep your opinions to yourself. And I would tell the liberal journalists, I'm not interested in your opinions either. What I want from conservative journalists is a perspective that we're not getting in the newsroom.
But here's the problem, Bernie, that a lot of those conservative journalists are going to conservative publications, right? And they're not working at mainstream media entities.
Yeah, but I want them at the New York Times.
Right.
I want them at CBS News. I've worked in a news organization, doesn't matter which one, that made CBS News look like Fox News. Okay, that's how left-wing this news organization was. People who've watched me on TV probably can guess which it was. I said to the anchor, get this, real life example. The anchor went on the air and said that the Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, who Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, wrote a report which I read, and it said he stole cigarillos from a convenience store. He walked in the street and walked right down the middle of the street. The police officer, who was white, told him to walk on the sidewalk. He punched and attacked the police officer and then tried to wrestle his gun away. And sadly, it's a tragedy, Michael Brown, a teenager, was shot and killed by the police officer. The anchorman went on the air and said Michael Brown was the victim of police brutality.
Yep. Look, Michael Brown is such a bad example for people who want to cite issues, and I've said this before because exactly right, you read the report, numerous, by the way, reports. There wasn't just one. There were numerous reports done on the Michael Brown case, and they all ended up in the same place. So, bad example. Bernie Goldberg, thank you for coming on the program. Good to see you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, Dan. Thank you.
Welcome back. We continue our hour of Police Under Fire at a time in this country when we absolutely cannot afford to lose police officers. We are losing them in record numbers. It's just simply not a good time to be a police officer. There's no way to sugarcoat that. Not when so many in the public express open hatred towards law enforcement. Crime rates are soaring, and so many in the media are so quick to go for the jugular of police officers whose actions are brought into question before the facts even come out, or when too many legislators are all too eager to shift blame and scapegoat police when some policy goes wrong, or even if merely the political winds shift against them. We've talked about it on this show before. Police officers leaving in droves, retiring, switching careers, quitting because they're underappreciated, undervalued, and not given the tools they need to do their jobs. Not to mention the dangers police face on the job have gotten so bad. We're seeing frightening numbers of officers being shot in the line of duty. It's a perfect storm. And we as citizens should be really, really worried about it. We should be trying desperately to respond to the needs of our police departments. Waves of retirement, resignations across the country have many departments scrambling to fill open positions. That means officers who are left are often working to cover the gaps. In Seattle last year, the chief said the department had just over 1,000 officers, the lowest they've seen in a department which at full force should have 1,200 cops. The former chief in Minneapolis, who retired in January, said his department was becoming one-dimensional, just responding to 911 calls because they don't have the time or resources to be proactive. In New York City, the New York Post reports that more than 1,000 officers have retired as of May 31st of this year, and more than 500 have resigned. That's a 38% jump from the same time last year. Pittsburgh, the city hasn't hired a new officer in 2 years. There's been no class at the police academy. This while officers continue to retire and resign every month. There's even a hiring freeze because of the defund the police movement, and the city is in fiscal crisis. Not to mention the starting salary in Pittsburgh to be a cop, less than $17 an hour. $16.84 to be exact. I'm not kidding. So what can be done about this? Joining me now, Sergeant Jared Wilson, president of the San Diego Police Association, and James Smallwood of the National Fraternal Order of Police. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. Sergeant Wilson, let me start with you. Your department, currently, 300 officers short of its target of just over 2,000. Why?
That's correct. We lost over 240 officers in the last year, but that only paints part of the picture. We were already down over 100 officers when that started, and we have over 200 officers in elements of training or on medical leave. So we really have only 1,500 officers, which leaves us severely understaffed. Our officers are leaving for other agencies that pay more. They're leaving for states that are more supportive of law enforcement and have cheaper housing, like Idaho, Tennessee, and Texas and Florida. And they're just fed up with being a big city cop at this point because the challenges that we face are overwhelming, while they can go to a suburban neighborhood 2 or 3 cities away for affordable housing.
That's an interesting point. Mr. Smallwood, are you seeing this on a national scale, that a lot of the big city cops are either saying, I'm out, or going to more rural areas?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Thanks for having me on. You know, it's a sad state of affairs when we were in an environment at one point in time in our society where we had literally thousands of applications pouring into agencies across our country for less than 100 vacancies. And now we're seeing major city agencies sounding the panic alarm because they're having 10, 20, 30 applicants for hundreds of vacancies. And it's directly due to the fact that A, they can't afford to live in these cities, and B, we have reckless politicians, activist council members, rogue judges, all doing everything they can to point the finger at law enforcement officers instead of their failed policies, which is continuing to promote failures of public safety in our cities across America.
Mr. Smallwood, does it mean that I just wasn't paying attention, that I didn't realize that in a big city like Pittsburgh, cops were making $16.84 an hour?
You know, again, I hate to say that it's a sad state of affairs, but you can literally make more money packing boxes at Amazon or flipping burgers at some McDonald's across this country than you can putting your life on the line to serve your community. How absurd is that? You are exposed, you have more risk, your family is at risk, you're doing everything you can to serve your community, and instead of the cities stepping up and doing the right thing, making sure that law enforcement pay and benefits are competitive with other professional realms across our country, they're failing at their mission, and our public safety in our communities is decomposing at the same rate.
Sergeant Wilson, give me some solutions here.
I think we need to pay our officers a fair compensation, but we also need to show that they can do community policing, give them the resources to do that, which we don't have with bad staffing, and really make sure that they're making a difference. This weekend, I arrested an individual while on beach patrol, actually, on July 4th weekend, for carrying a concealed firearm illegally. Known documented gangster. He was out on bail for the same offense and was released before I was done with the report. I don't feel like I'm making a difference, and my officers don't feel like they're making a difference when that's the case here. And we really want to get back to community policing and really serve our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and Mr. Smallwood, that's a frustration I hear from a lot of cops, right? It's not just, I focus a lot on the media attention, et cetera, which is sort of, disappointing and disheartening, et cetera. But I'll bet it impacts cops much more that you have these people being arrested and then immediately released on crimes where, 10 years ago they wouldn't have been.
Yeah, let's talk about what my colleague just mentioned. We have officers who are out there risking their lives, walking out of the door knowing that they may never see their families again, standing the line between good and evil, and doing everything they can to remove violence from our streets. Meanwhile, amidst a conversation about Second Amendment and guns in our country, we have politicians like Larry Krasner in Philadelphia, who is an absurd appointment of the fact that the FOP is not at the forefront of this conversation, simply trying to garner attention and deflect from his failed policies when he absolutely refuses to prosecute criminals who are doing violence in his neighborhood and across the community. We have that in every single major city across America. We are seeing politicians refusing to refusing to prosecute violent criminals. We're seeing judges let criminals out the door before the ink is dry on our affidavits. And who is suffering from that?
Yeah.
The folks suffering from that are the people putting the work in on the line, and first and foremost, the communities that are victimized by this violent crime and the terrorization of what we're seeing criminals do on a daily basis.
Well, this has been a very sort of frustrating segment, I think, for all of us involved here. But let me say one thing, and I talked about this earlier in the show on a sort of an upbeat note, which is the public at large likes their cops. The latest poll from Harris, we talked about it earlier in the show, shows 67% of Americans support police, with only 24% opposed to it. And these days in America, people are opposed to every institution. So cops are some of the most popular. Don't forget that, gentlemen. The people, and I think you know that, right? You know that from being on the streets. You know that from hearing from citizens that they appreciate you guys. Sergeant Wilson and James Smallwood, thank you. Now, because most other media outlets are not going to celebrate police heroism because they'd rather focus on the bad apples, we want to show you some amazing moments not covered by the national media. These are instances of true courage, bravery that happen literally every day, and it involves local police departments across the country, police officers risking their lives to save men, women, children, and yes, even criminals. Here are some examples of that heroism. In Madison, Indiana, police officers rushed to save the lives of a grandmother and 5 children trapped inside a burning home. According to one of the officers, there was heavy fire at the front door, preventing anyone from getting in or out. So frantic officers yelled for the family to jump out of a second-floor window and into their waiting arms. And one by one, officers caught each child, ages 3 to 13 years old. Everyone in that home got out safely, thanks to those officers in Madison, Indiana. In Hillsborough County, Florida, a 9-year-old boy continues to recover after this harrowing rescue from May.
Right here, baby. Right here, baby. Come on. Right here, baby. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on here. Come on that one.
He was trapped inside that burning home. Officers begged him to follow the light of their flashlights so they could get him within arm's reach of a window. Child's mother sobs, thanking officers.
Thank you, God, thank you. Thank you.
Owen. Talk to me a little bit, buddy. Deep breath. Get him in the recovery.
Child was in severe condition due to burns and smoke inhalation. We're happy to report he returned home to his family last month from the hospital and is recovering well. In Louisville, Kentucky, tense moments as police officers at a gas station attempted to revive a 7-day-old baby who'd stopped breathing. Her father had run into the gas station begging for help.
2 Charlie, I need ambulance code 3 for a newborn not breathing in Shorty's 18th and Broadway.
The officer performs the baby Heimlich and gets the newborn breathing again.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Nah, we good. There we go. We got it. Breathing. Can you possibly just still send EMS to check her out?
Baby Emma is home, safe and healthy. And dramatic video shows Atlanta police officers tracking a stolen car with a 9-year-old trapped in the back seat.
Open the door! Open the door! You're trying to kill us! You're trying to kill us! Oh my gosh, you're trying to...
While police put the suspect under arrest, another officer grabs the terrified child and comforts him.
No! You did a good job. You did a good job, man.
You okay?
Yes.
You okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna take it to your mom. You all right? You okay? You okay?
My mom called you?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
She did.
Excuse me.
So glad that little boy's okay. Police officers, of course, respond to a lot of calls involving stolen vehicles, traffic stops, and car crashes. And so often their everyday acts of heroism go unnoticed or unacknowledged. Here's an incident from April in Gloucester City, New Jersey. Officers jump into the freezing, debris-filled Delaware River there to save a woman trapped in a submerged, upside-down car.
Central, put a rush on everybody. The whole top of the car submerged.
Officers began performing CPR on the woman before they were even out of the water. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition, but survived. And just this week, first responders in Volusia County, Florida, saved an unconscious woman trapped in a submerged vehicle there.
Hey, give me a knife. Scissors, something.
Sheriff's deputies working with firefighters pull her from the car. She remains in critical condition. In Seattle, the police department's Harbor Unit responded to reports of a 2-year-old and 2 adults having gone overboard in Lake Washington. They pulled the family to safety.
Who else we got in the water? Come here. Sit right here. Sit right here. Sit down. Sit down.
And in Dallas, a sheriff's deputy was sitting in traffic when a desperate mother stopped in front of him. Dashcam video shows her running to his squad car, carrying her unresponsive 4-year-old daughter, not breathing and foaming at the mouth. The deputy began performing CPR.
Come on, mama. Come on, mama. Come on, mama. Come on. Come on, baby. Come on, come on.
All of these heroic actions need to be appreciated. Yes, some officers do bad things, but don't worry. The media is there to focus on them. But wouldn't it be nice if they also showed the other side, the much more common side of policing? Well, even if they won't, we will. That does it for this hour of Police Under Fire. That does it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.